Hello and the hell?
Hello and welcome to the channel. If you're new, my name is Chris and we're glad you came along for the adventure today. Today is one heck of an adventure, that's for sure. We were kind of plagued with some video issues, and some may say, something or maybe someone didn't want us to do a video on Halloween. But yeah, in this video we head out to a couple locations in Gettysburg, and we check out some areas and go to some areas that we heard may or may not, have some activity per se, depending on if you believe in that or not. But we heard some stories about Seminary Ridge. With that kind of being in a location of the first day of the battle, we wanted to head over there, and we wanted to actually check out the Gettysburg Black History Museum while we were there, but unfortunately we could not. You need, I guess, to call and make reservations to be able to do that. They're not just open for regular tours. So that was kind of a bummer. We definitely wanted to show you that, so maybe it's something that we'll bring back in a different episode here. But we did get to go into the Seminary Ridge Museum, which is up in Seminary Ridge, obviously, hence the name. And we'll get into that and some more of the stories here of kind of the ghostly aspect of it. Here at the end of the video, I do want to apologize that the video is a little bit bumpy. Like I said, we did have some camera issues along the way, but made the best of it as we kind of stroll through Gettysburg and check out some haunted locations. So if Gettysburg is your thing and you like the other videos that we did on Gettysburg, we hope you stick along for the adventure today, because I think it's a pretty good one. All right, well, we weren't able to go into the Gettysburg Black History Museum, but we did find the Seminary Ridge Museum in Gettysburg, which we are going to head into now and take a look at. This room here is pretty neat. On July 1st, in the morning of July 1st, General John Buford had actually received word that there was a Confederate advancement, so he climbed to the top of the cupola on the Seminary Ridge Museum. I'll show you that here in a little bit. It's pretty neat because this is his actual view from the top of the cupola. And you can see on the morning that the battle started.
That's your lawn?
We're like, you're mixing it up.
This room's neat. It's very interactive. They have buttons that you can touch that will illuminate different areas on the screen, describing what had happened on the morning of July 1st. We are now on the third floor of the museum, which is called Caring for the Wounded. Here you see some of the tools that they use in different amputations, or what they would have used after it was amputated. A hook for a hand. Here's a prosthetic leg. Here you have a map of all the hospitals that were in Gettysburg at the time. This was the hospitals after the battle. The blue H's mark the Union hospitals, the red mark the Confederate hospitals, and the green are marked as both Union and Confederate hospitals. As you can see, there was a lot of wounded people in the Battle of Gettysburg. definitely a massive need for hospitals around the area. There were so many things that were converted into hospitals here. It's just, it's insane. Very sad.
A medical staff of less than 20 valiantly sets to work, but nearly 600 wounded fill the seminary's rooms and hallways.
This display here is pretty sad. It's actually an exhibit of, what it would have looked like in the Seminary Ridge, converted into a hospital here after the war. And, this is a little graphic. If you're squeamish, please, just kind of turn your head away here. But, it just really is an exhibit displaying what it would have been like, what a room would have looked like with all of the wounded soldiers. This case right here is what a surgeon's field case would have looked like. This here is a model from 1863. This room here is number 3, the surgeon's room. Again, if you're a little squeamish, you probably want to look away. But this is what the surgeon room would have looked like during period time for amputations.
Stuff did well under my care. Not a single patient died.
Here you see a stretcher leaning up against the wall.
143rd Pennsylvania Volunteer Infantry.
It looks like this gentleman here had a pretty significant leg wound, and they are getting ready to amputate his leg.
Several times I was called on to carry one to the
Right here looks like this would have been a surgeon's amputation kit. It gives me the chills looking at it. I couldn't imagine getting an amputation from a little handsaw. And I think the worst part of that would probably be you have no anesthesia. We're ready to walk into room number 4, which is the nurse's room.
Maggots crept from his body. Many others almost have died.
Here's a list of all the attendants or nurses that were serving at the seminary hospital. Here you can see what it would have been like nursing these soldiers back to health after their amputations or their surgeries that they had. Here you have a list of all of the wounded patients that were at Seminary Hospital. And then here you see these soldiers that are recovering. Most famous one being Lieutenant Colonel George McFarland. Here you see Lieutenant Colonel George McFarland's family, spending some time with him while he's recovering from a leg amputation. Now we are on floor number 2, which is called Faith and Freedom in America. One thing that I think is really neat is every floor has a TV here that, in some pews that you can sit in, and you can listen to the history, and it tells you a story of, what happened during that time and what's correlated to the floor that you're on and what that story is really about. This floor, the second floor, is really devoted to a lot of the slavery. The unfortunate thing was we wanted to go into the Gettysburg Black History Museum, but unfortunately that is closed today. We found out when we checked in here that you're only able to go in and tour that history if you have an appointment, which we unfortunately did not have an appointment today. So we're here in the Seminary Ridge Museum, but they do still have some Black history and information on the slavery movement and the African American history during the Civil War. Right here is the book Uncle Tom's Cabin by Harriet Beecher Stowe from 1852.
Slaveholders who visited Pennsylvania could bring slaves with them, but if they stayed more than 6 months, the slaves would gain their freedom. However, Pennsylvania law allowed Schmucker to make the slaves indentured servants. After serving the family for a specified term of service, they would gain their freedom. Schmucker chose this option. Reverend Schmucker wrestled with the distinction between voluntary and involuntary slave owning. He became the most prominent voice against slavery in the Lutheran Church.
This here is a map showing the distribution of slave population of the southern states of the United States. And they got this, it was actually compiled from a census that was taken in 1860. I'm sure if you can see the glare. This here is room number 5, African Americans, which details the African Americans that were in Adams County and the African American soldiers that were here at the Seminary Hospital. The last room on the second floor is room number 6, the last full measure of devotion.
It is rather for us to be here dedicated to the great task remaining before us.
And from these on dead,
We take increased devotion to that cause, for which they here gave the last full measure.
This part right here I think is really neat. This is a very nice interactive part of this museum where you can write down your thoughts on what you think is still needed to achieve freedom for everyone. This is a good one. Why let fear control us?
7 years ago.
Accept every person as a child of God that Jesus died for.
Acceptance of others.
So true. Choosing to find common ground and not sowing division. You definitely always want to be cooler, and we added our own. Be kind to one another. Love always wins. Can't go wrong with being more kind to one another. I think that's something that this world needs more than anything right now. All right, well, that brings us back down to the first floor, which is really just a museum shop, restrooms, and where you check in. So you can see right up here in the top is the cupola that General Buford climbed to on the morning of the first day of the Battle of Gettysburg. This museum is actually really nice. I definitely recommend, if you have time and you're in a Gettysburg area, to check out the Seminary Ridge Museum and Education Center. You know, it was a lot of information, very reasonably priced. I will stick the prices up here, you know, but I don't think you can go wrong checking that out. You know, there is some kind of graphic content that's in there, you know, but the fact is that's history. You know, that actually happened. It's what we went through. You know, whether right, wrong, or indifferent, or how sad and disturbing it may be, you know, it was a part of our history, and you know, it's here to stay. So, like I said, if you're ever in the area, definitely check it out. I think it's an awesome place, and I'm pretty sure you'll enjoy that. All right, well, this brings us to our next stop on our Gettysburg Ghosts and Ghouls tour. We are at the Lincoln Cemetery. You know, it's all cemeteries to me are a you know, pretty sad place to be at. Regardless of whether you're here to remember somebody and memorialize them, or you know, just a visit. Obviously, we are visiting. But this cemetery that you see right here is famous for the fact that all African American soldiers that had served in the Battle of Gettysburg are actually buried at this cemetery here. It turns out that the African American soldiers were not able to be buried in the Gettysburg National Cemetery because of them being African American. You know, which to me it's absolutely silly. But you know, we definitely wanted to stop here on our tour today and bring you guys along with us and just pay respects to all the African American soldiers that did serve in the Battle of Gettysburg. You know, the crazy thing about this cemetery is, you know, the first half acre of this cemetery was actually purchased in 1867 by a society of black men that called themselves the Sons of Goodwill. And, you know, for many of years, this place was actually called the Goodwill Cemetery. There was actually another cemetery that was located in Gettysburg that was more of like a borough cemetery. But in 1906, they ended up exhuming all of those bodies, and they moved all of the African Americans that were located in the borough cemetery and moved those over here to this cemetery to be buried alongside with the soldiers. And you know, so now modern day, this is not known as the Goodwill Cemetery anymore. You know, this is now known as the Lincoln Cemetery. So you know, I think we are just going to take a walk around here and pay our respects and get ready to head on over to our next stop. After doing some more reading here, it looks like there was only about 30 of African American veterans of the Civil War that were buried here. And I do believe that those were roughly just the soldiers that were from this area that were buried here. You know, this area right behind me here is the original burial sites. All right, well, I apologize if this seems a little bumpy here. I've been having some camera issues, and unfortunately my camera shut off during that last segment, and I didn't realize it until a few minutes ago when we were on our way to our next location here. But I'm driving. I don't really have a whole lot of time to be able to look back through the footage, and we have reservations to go to our third and final stop, which I think you guys are going to enjoy. You know, it is right before Halloween. It is the full moon, the hunter's moon, and we are going to be taking a tour with Ghostly Images of Gettysburg, which is the only ghost tour that will take you through the Jennie Wade House for a ghost tour. So we are on our way there right now, and we'll pick back up as soon as we get there. All right, well, this is going to bring us to our third and final stop on our Ghosts and Ghouls of Gettysburg tour today. We are at the Jennie Wade House. You may recognize this from some of our other videos that we have. If not, I'll leave a link. You can go ahead and check that out. But we are going to take a ghost tour of the Jennie Wade House this evening. If you're liking this video so far, make sure you leave a comment down below or give it a big thumbs up. And you know, I think after we conclude this tour of the Jennie Wade House, you know, we're going to sit around a campfire and just kind of reflect on the day and everything we saw. And yeah, so let's get this tour started.
Your passage through my home shall be quite safe.
The bullet lands in my bedpost right next to me and my babe. Georgia, your sister is dead. No, Mama. She's at the donut tray. You told her to stay low. I heard that. No, Georgia. A bullet, both doors. Jenny, she got shot in the back. I'm sorry, Georgia. Jenny is dead. No, she can't be dead. I heard you say, stay low. Stay low, and Jenny always listens to you. I know she always listens to you. And I did not want to hear any more about battle or bullets. Where is my husband? And then I just started to scream. And scream, and scream, and I could not stop screaming. And then soldiers seemed to burst in and appear out of nowhere, and they stop and stare at her. They're just staring. Mama says, soldiers, yes, oh, yes, ma'am, we're sorry. And they look at all of us, and I am still screaming, and I'm trying to calm down. My baby is crying, and Mama's trying to calm me, and the soldiers say we must leave. And Mama says, how? We go out that door, we will all be shot. Look at my Jenny. And they're right. And I'm still... And the soldiers say, the artillery shell, it went through your roof? Yes. Did it go? Yes, it went through the wall too. Up the men go, and they beat and bang on the wall. And
Billy is. Yes, and on this side, Mama, she was so fascinated by your ambrotype devices that she stood in the mirror so proud.
mirrors when someone dies, so they do not
that came to mind of Mrs. McLean's house. They said it has been diffused and it is safe. I certainly hope so.
Tonight's tour was sort of a reenactment or historical interpretation of the events of what has happened, as for what is real and what was not. The house being remodeled and the ghosts taking things and not liking it, and the quilts being rumpled, the tools being taken, William running through Billy. Yes, it's all real. All that happened. And Mama and Mrs. McLean were two women appearing in the mirrors upstairs with photographs, all real. But one of the scariest things that happens here is when you come down here to turn on the lights and you walk down here and some snot-nosed person uncovered the face of the mannequin. This mannequin's been down here for I don't know how long. And you come down here and you're like, oh, boom, up the stairs, sweet Mary Jesus Joseph, she's uncovered. This is not a pretty sight, Mr. Wade, and your...
All right, well, that's going to wrap it up for this week's adventure. I hope you guys enjoyed it. We certainly had an awesome time in Gettysburg, as always, this weekend. You know, it was a little unfortunate. I did lose some footage along the way that, you know, I wanted to be able to put in this video, but, you know, such is life. These things happen. You know, maybe the ghosts and goblins got it, you know, I don't know, but you know, we really did have an awesome time. And as you can see, I'm not at a campfire. That footage, poof, it's gone. You know, it's flying over there somewhere. So, but you still have me. I'm still here. Wanted to go over some of the things and just kind of let you know why we went to some of the areas that we went to today. You know, because it's awesome. You know, Gettysburg itself is such a historical place, and really when it comes to, you know, supposed hauntings, is really listed as one of the most haunted places in the United States. You know, there was just so much death, destruction, decay, and all this horrible stuff that happened within 3 days. You know, and it's no wonder why the place is just haunted and heavy feeling and a lot of unrest, because that's really what it is. You know, there were some more notable places that we wanted to be able to get to, but with it being Halloween weekend, a full moon nonetheless, the Hunter's Moon, you know, we just weren't able to get some of the reservations. They book out months in advance. I didn't realize that. You know, so we'll be a little more prepared next time. But, you know, we did want to head up to Seminary Ridge. We've heard for a long time that, you know, there's a lot of activity that goes on up around that area. You know, obviously we wanted to head to the Black History Museum in Gettysburg, which is located on Seminary Ridge. But, you know, it was closed, as I said, you know, so we weren't able to get in there. But, you know, it's definitely on our bucket list. We do want to be able to head back to that sometime. But Seminary Ridge Museum was awesome. You know, a little maybe unknown fact, I don't know if you know about Gettysburg or not, but the Seminary Ridge Museum was actually the hospital. And it was a hospital that housed both Confederate and Union soldiers at the time. And probably one of the most crazy stories that we had heard was, you know, at the end of the battle, there was so much death and so many bodies everywhere, and really all they could do was just grab the bodies and move them and kind of pile them up until they could do some type of proper burial. You know, and as they were moving the bodies of these Confederate soldiers, there was actually a Confederate soldier that was still alive, you know, but was unconscious, and he was buried at the very bottom of the pile of dead people, you know, just surrounded by all this death and decay. And I couldn't even imagine that smell, that stench that he must have smelled. You know, and he couldn't get out, and he screamed and he screamed and he screamed until, you know, someone finally heard him and was able to pull him out from all of the dead bodies. And, you know, ultimately, you know, they took him to the Seminary Ridge Hospital, you know, where you know, he ended up succumbing to his wounds, but not before he ended up, you know, becoming psychotic from everything that he had dealt with the war and being buried underneath, you know, all of these dead people. And, you know, so there's a lot of kind of words like around that, and you know, and you see in the video, I mean, you saw the things that happened in the hospital, you know, the amount of wounded people and the amputations that they did in this hospital. And, you know, it's crazy. I mean, I'm sure that is just a very small little fraction of what truly happened in that time frame. You know, but it's heavy. You know, there's a lot of reports that you can read online where people go in that building, and when they're up on the 4th floor, you know, they get heavy, or you know, they get feelings of lightheadedness and nausea. And some people have to leave. They can't be up there. You know, I can't so much say that we had any of those experiences, at least not there. But, you know, it's a heavy place. I mean, you know, there's a lot of history in Gettysburg. You know, whether right, wrong, or indifferent, there's a lot of history there. But that brought us to our next stop. You know, we headed over to the Lincoln Cemetery, which, you know, the Lincoln Cemetery to me is just kind of, it's a sad cemetery. You know, it's really terrible that, you know, the soldiers, the African-American soldiers that, you know, fought and died right beside their fellow comrades were denied the right to be buried in the Gettysburg National Cemetery. And, you know, they had nowhere to be able to place their soldiers. And to me, that's terrible. You know, there were 30 African-American gentlemen who were veterans of the war who did not have a final resting place, you know. So luckily for the society that banded together, you know, they were able to give them a final resting place in what is now the Lincoln Cemetery, then the Goodwill Cemetery. You know, but it didn't just stop there. I mean, the Borough Cemetery was where the town had buried their African-American civilians. And, you know, and it really just seemed like that cemetery and its location where it was just didn't fit into, I guess, the overall plan, for lack of better things to say, because, you know, they ended up, you know, just kept pressuring, you know, to sell that land so they could redevelop it under something else. And ultimately they ended up exhuming all of the bodies and moving them over to the Goodwill Cemetery, the Lincoln Cemetery. That was actually when it ended up becoming the Lincoln Cemetery. was when, you know, like another group had got together and purchased more land to be able to exhume those bodies and take to there. So, you know, you can only imagine the amount of unrest that goes on at that cemetery. You know, it's very sad. It's a very heavy place. Unfortunately, we were not able to go into the cemetery to look around because it's under renovation right now. You know, so hopefully they do some really nice things there. You know, as you can see out front, they have some pretty nice memorials there, and you know, but I would, the cemetery itself is really just kind of just a bare bones cemetery. You know, it's nothing special, but yet they were veterans, you know. And I feel like, you know, hopefully that is their plan. Maybe they are going to memorialize them a little bit better, you know, but time will tell. But that brings us to our very last stop that was on our tour, which was the Jennie Wade House. You know, that was at least my most anticipated place to be able to go to on this trip. You know, Maury and I have been wanting to get into the Jennie Wade House for quite some time now, and every time we've gone to Gettysburg, it's always been booked. Ghostly Images of Gettysburg is the only ghost tour that will take you inside the Jennie Wade home. You know, and the stories that you hear throughout that tour are phenomenal. You know, and at the end of it, the tour guide, our tour guide, I believe her name was Maria. If not, I'll put her name up here, but in character, she was phenomenal. I mean, from the very get-go, as she was walking up to meet us, you know, she was already in character. And if you have not been on the tour, the character that she plays is Georgia, which is Jennie Wade's sister. And she goes through and she tells you the stories of really what happened, and you know, and tells you some of the ghost things that happen or some of the hauntings that happened there to date. You know, which I don't want to give all of them away. There's a lot. I want you to be able to go take the tour because it's an awesome place. I mean, it's sad, don't get me wrong, like it's very sad, but it is part of history, and I do believe that you should take the tour. I highly recommend it. And especially if you can ask for that tour guide, hands down, you know, you can't go wrong. But I thought some of the fascinating stories that we had heard while we were there was, you know, there is a little boy who likes to kind of run around and mess with things, and he was an orphan at the time. His name was Billy, and he likes to be able to mess with chains, and you know, they had told us that there was a group of Army recruiters that had gone through the Jennie Wade home for a ghost tour, and their only request is that they did it in night. And you know, they were going through the house and they got up to the second floor, and I think in one of the shots in the video you can see where there's a chair, which was actually like their storage area at the time. I don't think it says in the video, but Georgia was pregnant. She had her baby actually right before the Battle of Gettysburg started, and her bed was up there, but her husband had dismantled everything and brought it downstairs, so it was easier for her to move around with her being pregnant. But there is a chain that is up there that's kind of in front of some of the chairs that are there. And while the Army recruiters were up there, Billy decided he wanted to start shaking that chain pretty violently, and scared the crap out of him, for lack of better words. And I believe they said all but two gentlemen said this, "We're out of here," and took off. You know, some of the other stories you can see on Ghost Adventures and Ghost Hunters, they've been there. But one of the other ones that I thought was really funny, you know, and this is the last one I'm going to share on the Jennie Wade House. There was a new director that had taken over for like that museum area, because Jennie Wade House is a museum. But they had a new director for the museum that had taken over, and the director wanted changes. You know, the staff had advised against that highly. You know, changes are not taken very well in the Wade House. But she wanted to do it anyway and flex her muscles. So she actually took the quilts and reversed them from the McLean side of the house to the Wade side of the house. And, you know, they ended up putting up wallpaper and what have you. And every single morning when they would come in, all of the comforters and everything that they had touched and moved around would just be in a big pile right in the middle. And this went on for quite some time until they're like, you know what? Okay, we're done. We're sorry. We're not going to mess with the house. We'll put it back to the way that it was. And, you know, they stopped moving the comforters around and put everything back to how it was. And you know, there is rumor that you could actually hear laughter of two ladies, being the McLean, or Mrs. McLean and Georgia Wade, because of, you know, they finally won. You know, they got that. Another part that they did was, you know, when the shell went through the wall, you know, obviously the wall was not opened up as much as what you can see in the video. You know, it was a little hole that they were able to crawl through. You know, but over the years, codes inspectors had come in there and they said that, you know, it just wasn't safe. So they had to actually make that more sturdy and kind of set it up. But, you know, the Wade house, they did not like that. They don't like changes. You know, so they got pretty upset, and the contractor who was working on it, you know, went to go home that night, and when he came back the next morning, he realized that all of his tools, every single last one of them, were gone. They disappeared. And you know, the ghost thought that they had won. You know, there's no way that they're going to come back, and he did. He ended up coming back with more tools, and he still finished the job. But you know, I thought that was pretty fascinating that, you know, they took his tools. They were gone. Like, you're not messing with our house. So you know, but that house is awesome. I definitely recommend you tour it. You know, the basement is probably one of the most active areas that are there. You know, especially around where Jennie Wade's body is. You know, it's said that Jennie Wade's father, Mr. Wade, was extremely protective and is very, very protective of Jennie Wade. You know, you can go back in the Ghost Adventures video and you can see that, you know, he hops up on top of Jennie and straddles the mannequin that's there. And the father does not like that very much. But, you know, it's an awesome experience. I hope that you guys, you know, if you ever get the chance to be able to go to Gettysburg, you know, I hope you're able to check that out and check out some of these places. You know, I think this is probably our third, maybe fourth video that we've done of Gettysburg. You know, it's just an awesome place that we like to go and really just be a part of the history. So if you're ever in the area, check it out. I hope that our videos bring you, you know, some sort of ideas to be able to do there. And yeah, I mean, that's really what this is all about. So, but yeah, you know, I think that's going to wrap it up for this week's video. I believe I've mumbled and rambled along here enough at the end of this. If you like this video, make sure you give it a good thumbs up. Stay safe, and we'll see you on our next adventure.
Wow.